Okay, good morning, everybody. What I'm going to talk about today is groups, because you're dealing with multi-unit housing, and multi-unit housing is one of those things that, if you're doing it a traditional way, it ends up in a lot of donkey work. And when I say donkey work, I mean doing drawing work over and over and over again. And since we have these amazingly powerful computers, that should be one of the things that we can get the computer to work out for us. So in Revit, in AutoCAD, you can use something called blocks, if anybody's used to AutoCAD, blocks or XREFs, which are external reference files. The equivalent in Revit is groups and linked files. But it doesn't react in exactly the same way, because the benefit of groups is they actually interact with each other. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So I'm just going to start off by making a sample terraced housing project, row house project. So I'm going to set up a grid first of all, and let's just copy this grid across. I'm going to make it a multiple copy. I'm going to copy it across by 3600 and 3600 and again 3600. So then we'll do a horizontal one, and just to keep track of everything, I'm going to change this to a letter, and then I'm going to copy it down, and I'm just going to copy it the same dimensions, 3600. Let's go down here. So I've got, actually let's just delete the last one. So we've got 4x4 in the grid, and I'm just going to stretch it up so it's kind of together on the sheet. And just to do a little bit of a refresher, we can always switch off the grid heads here by clicking on the grid line and clicking off this little tick box here, because you generally just need them on one side. Otherwise it's just like you're doubling up the information on the drawing, which is not an efficiency in a drawing. You want to just use the information once, because there's always more information that you need to show. So let's just get it so that we have the grid heads just like that, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to just draw a sketch of a terraced house, and I'm going to use each of these panels as, it's going to be a very narrow terraced house. It's going to be 3.6 meters center to center, which is probably, well, it's extremely narrow, but I'm only going to use it as an example. Usually a terraced house would be at least 5 meters internally, so you probably use 2 of these, but just for the purposes of this demonstration, I'll just use one of them. So I'm going to make a wall, and I'm just going to use the basic wall generic, and I'm going to draw this one here. So we've got an outside wall and an outside wall. Am I going too fast? No. Just make sure that the outside is switched so that it faces the right direction. So make sure the arrow always faces outwards. And then I'm going to choose another type of wall, and we'll choose a, okay, let's just choose an interior 200 concrete, because that's a fairly standard party wall. I'm going to draw it from the grid intersection here where it says endpoint, and I'm going to draw it to the other grid intersection, and it kind of joins up in a kind of a neat kind of a way for us. But I'm only going to do it on one side, and I'll show you why in a second. So that's just for the sake of clarity. I'm going to put in some internal walls as well. So I'm going to use, what will we use for internal walls? Let's use these 100mm walls. And let's just say we have a corridor coming in here that goes probably up to here. And we might have a living room or something over here. And then here we could have bathroom, storage. And then we could have a kitchen over here. Just as a simple diagram of a terraced house. Gonna stick some doors in. Front door, pink. This one here, into the bathroom, and up here into the living room. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do to start off with. So now we have the overall dimensions of the terraced house. So I've made one. So this is our kind of our house model. And we just want to repeat this. So this is a little selection tip if you don't know this. If you want to select something, if you select from the top right hand corner and hold down until you make a window like this, you can see it selects everything on the sheet that's inside the window, even that it touches. But if you select the other way around from the bottom left hand corner, if you watch, it doesn't select the grid lines. It only selects whatever is completely inside the selection box. And that's a quick way of selecting stuff. You know, if you know you're only going to be selecting within a certain dimension. The other way to do it is we can select everything, and then up here we get this little kind of filter icon, and then we can go in here and deselect the elements that we don't want to select. If I press apply there, it deselects the grids. Okay, so that's just a little efficiency guideline. But now we've got all the elements of the group that we want to create, and because they're selected, we have the modify tab open at the top here. So we have this little button up here called create group, and you can see that even the little graphic it shows you, it's talking about pretty much what I'm talking about. So create group, I'm going to call it terrace type 1. That's okay. And you can see that the group has now been kind of solidified, so it exists as an element. So I can just select it and use the copy tool, and I can just copy it from grid line to grid line like that, as many as I want. And if you look at the actual wall joins here, they automatically join together. Whereas if you're dealing with another type of software in AutoCAD, it doesn't automatically join the things together. You have to go around and edit all the joins individually. So it's kind of a big efficiency saving from that point of view. So that's the first thing. Does everybody kind of understand that? Yeah. Okay. So just to show you what we can do. So now let's say we want to modify the plan. So we've got everything in position. We have a grid set up, so we know everything's in the exact position that we wanted. But now we want to work on the plan itself. So let's say we want to go in. If we select one of them, we can press edit the group, and then we can go in and add, let's say we want to add some storage in here, another door into the storage, and I'm going to put in just some basic windows. What have we got for windows? Yeah, let's put in some big windows here, and there, and one there like that. If I do that, you can see how the rest of the other groups are grayed out because they're not editable within this editor. But then if I accept that, it updates all the groups in the row. So you can have hundreds and hundreds of houses in your scheme that are automatically being updated all the time. Okay? So that's the benefit of that. And just to go into detail about the walls, if I go in here, edit the group again, I'm going to change this wall type to a exterior like that. If I just press finish, once again you can see that it links all the walls together, so it looks like it's all been drawn in one long line. So graphically it kind of makes sense for your project to do that. Okay, so that's the first thing about it. The second thing is that now we've made it into a group. If I select one of them over here, we have over here in the properties tab, it actually has a name. Just like if we selected a type of wall or something like that, we could come over here and change it to a different type of wall. It's exactly the same with groups. If I say I'm going to select this group here, I'm going to edit it and I'm going to duplicate it, and this time we're going to call it terrace type 2. That's okay. Now if I modify terrace type 2, edit the group, let's say we're going to move this one up slightly like that and finish it. It doesn't obviously modify terrace type 1 because it's a new type of house. So let's just go in and edit terrace type 2 again. And terrace type 2, let's say we're just going to copy a window or something across like that and finish. So now we have three times terrace type 1 and 1 time terrace type 2. So often you go to a meeting with the developer and you say, well, we have 400 of this type of house, we have 600 of this type of house, or whatever. At least you used to back in the days when there was money going around. But now you might go, okay, we have 2 of this type of house, and now we have 2 of this type of house. But maybe he wants to have 3 of terrace type 2. So it's as simple as just selecting terrace type 1. You can come back and you can say, okay, we can change that for you. It's 2 weeks work. We'll charge you for 2 weeks work. But he thinks you're using AutoCAD. But what you can do is you just come back in here. You can select, for example, let's say, where are we? Select all instances in view. Select all of the terrace type 1. You can just come over here and switch it to terrace type 2. So you can very, very quickly update multiple unit schemes that way. The last thing I would say is you always get a point in a terrace housing scheme where you have something like this, where the end house needs to have a capping piece on it or something like that. It is as simple as just taking a wall and drawing it from the edge to the edge like that. And you can see that Revit tries to join the structural elements together and the cladding elements together. The wall is obviously backwards, so if we switch it, it joins up according to the way it should. So you can just add elements to the end here, but it doesn't modify the group. Okay? That makes sense?
The internal,
Hi, Michael.
the internal wall.
Yeah.
That needs to be separated because of sound and fire.
This internal wall here.
Yeah.
You could go in here, edit the group, and you could come in here and you could change that wall to a different structure of wall. So, for example, let's say we don't want an interior 200 concrete. We can edit the type, edit the structure, and then we can insert layers. So let's say we change this layer to a finish layer, and we change this layer to a substrate layer, and we change the finish to, for example, gypsum. So you can just type gypsum, and we give it, let's just make it 12.5. And actually we'll change this to a thermal or air layer because it has the same possibility. So we'll just change it to, we won't change the material, we'll just give it a thickness. So we'll make it 50, let's say. It's got something going on in there. And okay, we can do that on both sides. Let's just do it on one side, just for the sake of it. And then I'm going to change this to, what is that, 62.5. So we've got 137.5. Just to fill it up, so it doesn't modify anything else. Press OK and apply. So it puts a, it modifies what's happening in the wall here. Let me just turn up the quality of it. So now it's got a plasterboard layer, it's got a resilient layer, and then it's got a structural layer. So you can modify the individual walls so it has as much structure in it as you need. Okay. So now if I press finish, you get something like that. And obviously you would need that on both sides, but that's just the principle of dealing with groups when you're especially when you're using multi-unit housing, because that's where it has most benefit. It can be problematic, for example, if you want to stagger the houses. So let's say we wanted to move this house down 1800. You can see that straight away we have a problem here and we have a problem down here that we have to deal with in another kind of a way. But we don't have that issue at the moment. If anybody has that issue, we have to deal with it on an individual basis because there isn't one overall method for dealing with it. Okay, that's pretty much all I want to say today because you're all busy with this stuff, but hopefully this helps you out with the terrace housing stuff. Any questions? Okay, so it's just studio time then.